Hi everybody, it's Giancarlo from Vince's Market here, and we're in the test kitchen at Market & Co. And our topic today is grilling or pan frying your favorite steak. We're gonna go through 3 different types of really common steaks you can find in our meat department and talk about the best method for cooking, a little bit of tips on selecting, and ultimately take a look at finishing them off once they're off the grill. The feeding program for the Vince's Market Ontario Angus Reserve beef is that the beef start by being weaned off their mother's milk. They then move into open pasture and are grass-fed for roughly 18 to 24 months. They then go to a corn-fed diet for about 3 to 6 months until they're ready to go to market. The first important thing to consider when purchasing a steak is the grade. The grading will tell you how much marbling or fat content is in that piece of meat, as well as it talks a little bit about the quality of the cattle that it came from. So you want to look for AAA to prime. AA beef, single A beef, and select beef are all a little bit of lower grades, and unfortunately they don't quite have the taste or texture that you're probably going to look for in a steak that you'd want to take to the grill. So it's important to look for AAA or prime. Now, prime beef is often found only in specialty butchers, so AAA is the most common that you'll find at higher end grocery stores that really meets that threshold for quality and taste, as well as price. With regards to selecting a piece of meat for your family, you'll find that at the grocery store, you're most commonly going to find steak that is cut between 3/4 inches and 1 inch thick. Now, some chefs and higher end cooks are looking for thicker cut steaks, and that's totally available, but what you're most commonly gonna find in the grocery store is what I've shown here. So top sirloin here, cut at about 3/4 inch thick. Strip loin steak, found at about 1 inch thick. And then we've got 2 options of ribeye, one with bone in and one without the bone. And there's benefits to both, which we'll talk about when we hit the grill. And again, it's important to get a steak that's thick enough that when you grill it, it doesn't automatically become well done. If the steak is too thin, you'll find that you're cooking it to the right level that you're happy with, might be more difficult. So the thicker, the better to a certain degree. Going with a really thick steak, of course, is going to mean a higher price point for that piece of meat. The first 2 steaks that we're going to cook today on the grill top are the top sirloin and the New York strip loin steak. And the reason we're going to use the grill for these, there is a little bit of marbling in here, but not too much on the strip steak. So that's a great steak that can actually go either on the grill top or on the frying pan. But sirloin, because there's not a lot of marbling in here, it's a leaner steak, less fat content. What you'll find is that it is actually suitable for the grill a lot better than the higher fat content steaks, just because it won't cause flare-ups or grill-ups, and it will ensure that your cooking consistency is really there. So the first thing we're gonna do is put a good amount of salt on your steak. And again, don't be shy with regards to the salt. The seasoning and the taste in steak comes from the seasoning and the salt, as well as from the marbling that's present. So you really only need 2 ingredients on seasoning your steak, salt and pepper. The third item that you can add if you're looking to add a little bit of an extra char is a little bit of oil. So you can use vegetable-based oil or an olive oil, not an extra virgin olive oil, but strictly just an olive oil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a little bit of olive oil on there, and I'm gonna use my hands to rub it in. Now, we're not overloading it with oil because too much oil means that it's going to lead to a little bit of flames on the grill, and we don't want that to happen. So we're just going to allow the oil to work with the salt to mix in. We're going to then flip over our steaks, and we're going to do it again. The first thing you want to do when preparing your grill is you want to get your grill top as hot as possible, whether it be charcoal, propane, natural gas. You want the hottest grill surface possible, because what that's going to do is it's going to sear the meat and keep the juice and the flavor in. When the grill top is not hot enough, that searing doesn't happen, and while you're cooking, a lot of flavor is literally escaping your piece of meat and just falling down. So I've had this grill top running for at least 15-20 minutes now at full heat. I can feel that it's hot. I can really not even keep my hand to the touch. That lets me know that ultimately we're at a good temperature to go ahead and grill. Next thing you want to do is clean your grill top and season your grill top before you start. So this is the old-fashioned wire brush. Out of fashion right now, one, because these wire bristles can actually break off, can actually get stuck in your food. So there's a little bit of a dangerous hazard with regards to these, as well as the carcinogens or what you're taking off the grill tends to stick to them. And unfortunately, that sticks around for the next time you clean your grill. So these are kind of gone and away. What we prefer to use is a wood paddle. And the nice thing is the heat from the grill will actually start to create grooves that'll help you clean. Now, I've already prepped this grill, but in essence, what you just want to do is from front to back, is just do a nice solid clean on your grill. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of smoke happening off the end of it. That's exactly what you want to see happen. It means that the grill is at the right temperature and we're actually clearing the top. Now, depending on the griddle that you're using, you can notice on this grill top, it's actually quite dry. So we want to create a little bit of oiling on it, not too much. The best way to accomplish this is to grab a tea towel, okay? Have one that specifically is for this purpose. You just want to roll it up in a really tight bunch and use a pair of tongs to hold onto it, nice and tight. Prepare just a little bit of oil. Again, you can use a canola oil or a cooking oil, or you can use an olive oil that has a higher smoke point. And you just want to dip the rag in there. And the surface that you're going to be using, you just want to go ahead and apply a little bit of oil to the top. Oil will smoke at the temperature that we have here. So what you want to do is allow that oil to smoke off, and then you'll have a little bit more of a smoother surface by which you can cook on. Now it's the easy part, which is just you got to put your meat on the grill. So a couple things to consider when you're placing your meat on the grill. You want to find the hottest part of the grill. Normally after you've used it a couple times, you'll know where that place is. Next thing is you want to make sure that the meat is smooth across the grill. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the meat on the grill. Then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to use our tongs to just make sure that the meat is nice and smooth against the bottom of the surface. I'm going to do the same thing with my top sirloin. Once your steak comes off the grill, first thing you want to do is you want to pop it onto a plate and you want to cover it with foil and in a tenting manner. So which means you don't want to cover it too firmly. You want to leave a little bit of room for the steam to breathe. And it's important that you cover your steak because it's what's going to allow it to rest. And it's going to make sure that the juice stays inside the steak and doesn't run away on the plate. We're going to leave this for about 5 to 10 minutes. It will continue cooking it a little bit further. So depending on how you like your steak, it's just a matter of making sure that you remember that it's going to cook a little bit more as it stays hot on the plate. All right, so the next two steaks that we're going to cook on the grill are very similar. They're both ribeye steak. One is a bone in and one is the bone out. Literally, that's what it means. We've left the bone on one of them, we've taken the bone off on the other. It's really a matter of preference. Some people really enjoy the flavor that comes off of the bone. There's some marrow involved that can come off, so it adds a little bit of a different texture and taste. However, you'll see that a lot of the marbling and the layout of the steak is still very similar. So people really love the ribeye steak, mainly because of the amount of marbling and fat content that's here. It makes it probably the most tasty steak out of the entire family. Now it is a higher fat content, so you need to know that when you're going in and purchasing a steak, but it really does add to the flavor. So you want to make sure that that's present during the cooking process. It's going to give a lot of flavor. The reason why we are going to do this on a frying pan, cast iron pan is ideal, is because of the amount of fat that's involved on this steak. When you do hit the grill, it really causes a lot of flare-ups and you get a lot of flames. And that flames actually doesn't lead to good taste. It actually creates that burnt taste that you might not like, or that gristly taste. What we do want is a nice even sear. So we're going to use a frying pan, and what you'll find is that when these steaks come off the grill, they're going to look a lot different than the steaks that we did on the grill top. So we'll see how that looks and we'll compare them side by side. So ultimately our suggestion is with a really good ribeye steak, it's not outside, it's inside, unless you have a nice cast iron pan that can go on your barbecue. But we think it's the best method of cooking this particular type of steak. So we're at the stovetop, and we've got a really heavy bottomed pan here. And the key thing is you want a pan that has even heat across to create the best surface, okay? Now with this, it's the same thing. The hotter the surface, the better the sear. So we're gonna turn our flame right up all the way for the initial flame, for the initial sear. And then what we'll do is we'll remove the temperature just a little once we know that we've got that really good crust that starts to form on the outside of the steak. So we know that our pan is ready to start cooking. When you start to see a little bit of smoke come off, that means that the temperature's come up. I've had this on here for about 10 minutes now. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our steak, and again, it's important that we create a flat surface. With regards to pan frying a steak, the less you touch it, the better. So similar to the grill top, where we only really touch the product about 4 times. The initial put on the grill, the 1 to 90-degree angle to create your grill marks, and then flip, and the same thing. We're actually only going to touch the steak twice. So you want to allow the equipment that you have do the work as far as cooking your product. So we're going to grab our nice 2 steaks, and we're going to place them on the frying pan. What you want to hear is that nice sizzle. And again, making sure that you're creating as much surface area touching the pan as possible. We're going to let this thing get started. Our steaks are cooked, and now we're just going to let them uncover, and we're going to give them each a cut just to see how we did. So the first thing you'll notice when looking at the grilled steak versus the pan-fried steak is the amount of juice on the plate after resting. So because we seared these at really high heat on the grill pan, on the stove, the sear actually kept almost all of the juices inside after resting. With regards to our grilled steaks used on a barbecue or grill top, the result is that we still got some juice runoff after the rest. So that is totally to be expected, and just the difference in the cooking method. With that regards, obviously the look of the steaks are very different. With the steak that we put on the grill top, you get that nice charcoal lines. It's got that traditional look that you're looking for. The pan fried, that constant browning and that constant sear. So it depends on who you're trying to impress and what kind of look you're going for with your plating. The different methods have a different result. Finally, before you're ready to serve the product, the question is whether or not you're a salt lover, and that's really involved in the seasoning stage. But a lot of people like to season before resting or season right before plating. The reason why we don't like to season right before plating is that the salt won't have time to absorb into the meat, so you get that really, really strong salt taste. But this steak right now for us is ready to be served. Lindsay and I are going to actually be able to enjoy some of this afterwards. So I'm just going to cut through the steak and show you what our finished result was. Hopefully I've been able to teach you a few tips and tricks on how to prepare a steak, whether on the grill outside or on your stovetop inside. And again, just learn something new. And we hope you have a chance to try the Ontario Reserve beef program from Vince's Market and enjoy this grilling season that's about to be upon us.